Hello and welcome to this lesson. In this lesson we're going to be looking at solving equations symbolically with fractions. So let's take a look at our very first equation. We have x divided by 4 is equal to 5. Okay? Now if we were to solve this, we know we must do the opposite operation to x in order to isolate x. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to multiply this by 4. Now what we do to one side, we must always do to the other side. So we're going to multiply this by 4 as well. So now, if I look at this, 4 divided by 4 is 1. So that gives me 1x is equal to 5 times 4 is 20. Okay? So if we look at it there, we multiplied by what my denominator is. Now we're going to look at one a little bit more complicated. We're going to build our way up and see if we can find a pattern here. So let's look at my next one. I have x over 3 plus 1 over 2 is equal to 5. Okay? So if I'm looking at this here, once again, we're looking at x and what's happening to x. Well, to get rid of the denominator here, I can multiply everything by 3 because we do the opposite for x. So what I do to one side, I must do to the other side. Now I have another denominator here. I have that 2. So another way of looking at this is to get rid of this 2, I'd have to multiply by 2 as well. So what I do to one side, I must do to the other side. Okay? So let's think about this here. We go 3 times x divided by 3, they cancel out. So 6 times x divided by 3, 6 divided by 3 is 2, times x is 2, 2x. Now, we have to go using our distributive property. 6 divided by 2 is 3. Now here we're going to have 6 times 5 is 30. Okay? Now we're just going to continue solving like we normally would. So I'm going to subtract 3 from this side, subtract 3 from that side. So I get 2x is equal to 27. Now I'm going to divide by 2, divide by 2. So I get x is equal to 27 over 2, or 13 and 1 half. Okay? So let's look at what's happening here. We want to get rid of this fraction. In order to get rid of a fraction, we have to multiply by the denominator. Now we have two fractions, so I multiplied by both denominators. And what we do to one side, we must do to the other side. By multiplying by the denominator, what that does is it allows us to remove our fraction, okay? To make it a whole number instead of a fraction. All right, let's take a look at another example. Let's take a look at this one here. I have 2x plus 3 is equal to 2 over 5. Oops, 2x over 3 plus 3 is equal to 2 over 5. So we're going to try that one. So it's 2x over 3 plus 3 is equal to 2 over 5. Now once again, I have a denominator here I want to get rid of. So I'm going to multiply everything here by 3. And I have to multiply that by 3. Alright? So that will get rid of the denominator on this side. But I'll still have a fraction on this side. So let's see if I could get rid of the denominator on this side as well. In order to get rid of the denominator on that side, I'm going to multiply everything on this side by 5. What I do to one side, I must do to the other side. So now looking at this, I have 15 divided by 3 is 5. 5 times 2 is 10, so we get 10x. Now we have 15 times 3 is 45. Now here we have 15 divided by 5 is 3, times 2 is 6. Now we got rid of all of our fractions and we could just solve like normal. So we're going to divide by, or subtract 45, subtract 45. So I get 10x is equal to 39. Then if we have 10x is equal to 39, I'm going to divide by 10, divide by 10. So I get x is equal to 39 over 10. 10 goes into 39 3 times, and we'll have 9 left over. Okay? All right, let's take a look at my next example. Once again, before we go to our next example, I just want to go over here. So we had two denominators, and we multiplied by the denominators to get rid of the denominators. Okay? Because if you multiply by a denominator, that helps us get rid of the denominator. Let's look at my next one. My next one here is we have 2 over 3x again. And we're going to say minus 7 over 2. And that's going to be equal to 5 over 6. All right. So we're going to start off over here. I have a 3. I want to get rid of that 3. I want to make it so it's not a fraction. So I'm going to multiply everything on this side by 3. Now if I multiply everything on this side by 3, I have to multiply everything on my other side by 3. Now we have a 2. Once again, we want to get rid of this fraction of a 2. So I'm going to multiply everything on this side by 2. Now I must multiply everything on this side by 2. Now if I look at this, I don't actually have to multiply by 6 here, because 3 times 2 is 6, and 6 divided by 6 is 1. So we still technically multiplied by all the denominators. And we're going to get to a little trick here. After I solve this, we're going to go over that, come back to that. So let's go. 6 divided by 3 is 2, times 2 is 4. So we get 4x. Now we have 6 divided by 2 is 3, times 7 is negative 21. And here, we're going to have 6 divided by 6 is 1, times 5 is 5. Okay? Now we're going to continue solving. So I'm going to plus 21, plus 21. Okay? So now I'm going to end up getting 4x is equal to 5, or 26. All right. Now I divide by 4. Divide by 4. I get x is equal to, I look at this could be half, so it's 13 over 2, which is, or we have a total of 6 1/2. Now, let's look at this here. If I look at all of my denominators, we want the lowest common multiple of them. And that's a way of thinking about this. We want the lowest common multiple of all my denominators. So I look at this. We have 6, we have 2, and we have 3. Okay, so 6, 2, and 3. This breaks down to 2 times 3. So we have a 2 and a 3. That's the primes. We have a 2 and we have a 3 there. So altogether, we need 2 times 3 multiplied by all of them. The lowest common multiple of our denominators, which also means lowest common denominator, we are going to multiply by to get rid of our fractions. So let's take a look at my next example here. This one's a little bit trickier. We have 2 over x plus 3 is equal to 3 over 4. All right? So once again, what do we have here? We have an x on the bottom, so I want to multiply by x. We have a 4 as a denominator, so we want to multiply by 4. Now what we do to one side must always do to the other side. So I'm going to put that x here and the 4 here. So we multiply both sides by 4 to get rid of the 4. Okay? Multiply both sides by x to get rid of the x. My lowest common denominator here is, if we look at it, we have 4 and x is going to be 4 multiplied by x. That is my lowest common denominator, or lowest common multiple of the denominators. So if I look at this now, we have 4x divided by x gives me 4 times 2 is 8. Now I have 4x times 3 is 12x. On this side here, we have 4x divided by 4 is x, times 3 is 3x. Now we're just going to continue solving. So I look at this here. I'm going to move all of my x's over on that side. So I have minus 12x minus 12x. 3 minus 12x is negative 9x. Okay? Now I just want to divide both sides by negative 9, negative 9. So now I end up getting x is equal to negative 8 over 9. And that is my final answer. So once again, all we have to do, and hopefully understand why, is multiply each term by the lowest common denominator. Or you might think of it as the lowest common multiple of our denominators. And then we just, once we do that, we will end up getting rid of the fractions and we could then solve like normal.